Hello everyone. So we're sorry for the long wait. I'm not very consistent about getting these out. School has been kind of kicking my butt, but we got 2 days off this week, so I figured I would do my review of Morning Star today. And wow, this was really good. I really enjoyed Morning Star. I loved the first two books, and Morning Star just elevated everything that I loved about the Red Rising series. The battles, the battles, the fights, the political nuance, and now it's not a spoiler. It happens pretty early on, but now with Darrow exposed as a red, exposed as a red during his supposed after his supposed execution. There's so many character details as Darrow interacts with his friends, and as they come to terms with what's happening, how the revolution is, and how the revolution and the rising is accelerating, and what it now means. Before, it was House Augustus in the second book, it was House Augustus protecting itself from House Bologna, but now it is truly a revolution for the low colors. So for the low and middle colors who've been oppressed, and taking back what's rightfully theirs from the gold. And it just, that added layer of political nuance was super amazing here in Morning Star. As I said here, the space battles were even greater here. Just the War of the Fleets was exciting and gripping the entire way through. And it has just as many amazing hand-to-hand or like razor combat moments as the other books. And wow. And especially seeing how the society, how the Golds, not just Darrow's friends, but those who they're competing against, those who they're fighting against, how they are coming to terms with how they are dealing with the rising, how they're dealing with the war, now that it's no longer about, an inner gold tribal faction, tribal war, but instead this social revolution as the lower classes are taking up arms against the golds. And it's just so good. I really enjoyed it. All of the characters were spot on in this book. It was very interesting to see in the epilogue, not the epilogue, in kind of Pierce Brown's discussions at the end of how he had to think about this book less of just Darrow's story, but the other people in Darrow's life, the other people who are involved with this revolution, and how their relationship with Darrow and how his relationship with them has impacted, how it impacts each other and the rising as a whole. Getting that insight at the very end kind of solidifies what stuck out to me in this book compared to the first two. Is it's no longer about Darrow. It's no longer about his journey or his story. It's instead about the rising and this revolution that he's starting. And I put this off for so long that I've started reading Iron Gold as well. And that's just something that's even further solidified there. It's no longer Darrow's story. It's the story of the rising. It's the story of the society, and how the lower classes are taking back what's rightfully theirs. It was really, really good. But I will pause for a second, and we'll get into my spoiler-filled thoughts in a moment. All right, for the my spoiler thoughts of Morning Star. I guess we'll start at the very beginning with that gut-wrenching opening, kind of that opening bit. Not only with just Darrow's, the devastation of Darrow at the very beginning of the book, while he's in the cell, after seeing where he's come, how confident he was in the previous book, seeing him broken back down to where he was back in Red Rising, the first book, back when he was still a Red, was kind of heartbreaking to see him back there, especially after how confident he had become over the course of the last book. And following that with a really exciting escape sequence, which kind of the claw drill appearing out of the ground, and Severo leading them, was really exciting, and kind of interesting to see how powerful the Rising had become, the Sons of Ares had become, that they can do this in full daylight now. That they are able to pull off operations of that magnitude. Trig dying was very sad, especially for what we know what happens in Iron Gold. I won't spoil that, but that was especially tragic. And yeah, it was yeah, very exciting opening sequence. And then I guess following that up with the capture of Phobios, which was finding out Quicksilver was part of the Sons of Ares, was I completely out of left field. I did not see that coming, but that just made there was especially before that though, that moment in when they intrude upon that meeting and you saw Cassius and as well as Mustang and the Telemeneses all in that room negotiating, and it made you stop for that second and wonder, like, have they turned, which I especially felt super bad if they had, because I thought that for a second. I'm like, no, the Telemeneses were Telemeneses were some of my favorite characters from the first two books, and so I was like, no, I did not want them to turn. Luckily they did not. And then the storming of Phobios and the beginning of the Rising was such a good. It was amazing just seeing just how Brown's able to write the revolution and how just flowed upwards through Phobios and the shipyards. It was just super super exciting, and it was followed by them traveling to the northern reaches of Mars in order to negotiate with the Obsidians, and yeah, I guess there was kind of the first major kind of like almost second major hand-to-hand combat scene with the fight with Cassius and Aha, and the death of Ragnar, which hit me super hard. He was one of my along with the Telemeneses, Ragnar was one of my favorite characters from Golden Sun, and having him die was a punch to the gut, and followed by several very tense scenes as our main I guess trio there, what duo at this point was forced to confront the Obsidians, and the beginning of Sephet and Sephi and what she eventually became. It was interesting. Pierce Brown was able to write kind of this almost religious revival among the Obsidians, where their gods for so long had died. Which actually what's super interesting is looking through Norse mythology. They had very mortal gods, gods who could absolutely die and died numerous times throughout their stories, and so it was interesting seeing. I mean, I don't know how well this would have worked if they had followed any other pantheon. But it was interesting to see how Brown handled their shift from wholeheartedly worshiping the golds to becoming almost independent. Following that up with their trip to the Rim, and that really amazing. I loved the scene with Roke and Romulus and Darrow, where they're both trying to convince Romulus. They're trying to both convince Romulus who to side with. And how, despite Darrow not being, let's be honest, the greatest negotiator in the world, how he was able to manipulate Roke and Romulus and Roke and come out on top of that argument was great. And just the political nuances of that scene, the political nuances of that discussion were really awesome. In addition, following that was the highlight of the novel. One of the probably the second best scene in the novel, which was the battle of the Rim between Roke's forces and Darrow's, and those of the Rising, and how Darrow managed to maneuver Roke's forces in just the right way to be able to take their flagship, where the name Morning Star came from. And that final scene, great. I mean, all of the fighting in those scenes were amazing, but that final scene on the bridge with Roke was heartbreaking, especially after, like, you hate Roke for what he had done, but there were so many great moments with him in Golden Sun and Red Rising that you don't want to, and that it was kind of a heartbreaking scene for that reason. And then of course Darrow, something I did not expect was Darrow bombing the Ganymede, destroying the Ganymede shipyards. I was not ready for that, and and the careful manipulation that he had, and how Romulus knew. Once the battle had concluded, Romulus knew that Darrow had lied to him in a major way, but he didn't do anything about it. He couldn't do anything about it, and it was great. It was seeing the political savvy of Darrow and his allies was awesome throughout this novel. And then that brings us on our way back. Sevro and Victra's marriage was amazing. Sevro continued to, despite being Sevro being such a staunch supporter of Darrow, and with him and he knew that Darrow did not want Cassius dead, and so how he stepped up on the hangar was amazing, and completely within Sevro's style to just go hang himself. It was only Sevro. And then we make it to Luna. We make it to Luna, and preparing for that final battle. And one thing that Pierce Brown is very, very good at doing is almost kind of the Ocean's 11. I don't know how to explain it. But where something goes very wrong, only to figure out that that's the plan later. I'm gonna equate it to Ocean's 12, because I just watched Ocean's 12 last night. But that kind of final heist of everything went wrong because, well, it was supposed to go wrong in those particular ways, was really great. Was really great. I liked. It made the tension higher because I had no idea that was going to happen, and just that final exchange in the bunker between Octavia and Aha and the Jackal, as well as Sevro and all of them. Not only was it a great sword fight, but the clash of political ideologies and the how tense that Perrin was able to make it because of kind of that bait and switch that he gave us, that was actually the plan from the very beginning. Followed by the Jackal's detonations of the nukes on Luna, which perfectly set up the one part of the conflict for Iron Gold, which I'm reading now, and just seeing how he was able to set that up for a future book that wasn't even part of the trilogy was amazing. And then it was a very, very sweet epilogue with Darrow getting to meet his son. That was just kind of the overview of the book. But I think for me, what I loved so much about, I talked about this in the non-spoiler section, what I love so much about Morningstar is seeing all of these characters grow because they're not fighting for something more. They're not just fighting for a petty house squabble, which, sure, it was a very deadly petty house squabble, but it was still just a fight between houses, to dedicating themselves to a higher cause, a cause that would really just be detrimental to them in the cases of Mustang and the Telemesis and Victra and and Victra, and seeing not only seeing the golds, some of those golds adapt to Darrow's worldview, but also seeing the exact opposite is the golds who are staunch in their support of the society, staunch in their support of the hierarchy, and who refuse to give in, and how that's them being stuck in the past, them being stuck with what they always thought, them stuck with the status quo eventually led to their downfall. In addition, all of the lower colors who suddenly had this resurgence, Sephi and the Obsidians, Orion as the Blue Captain, and just all of these lower colors who became super influential, were great. While the first two books were great because of the action and the conflict and Darrow's growth, this book was great not just because of Darrow, but because of everyone around Darrow that just made the characters made this story as good as it was. It was just really amazing. Yeah, that was my review of Morning Star by Pierce Brown. And my next book review will probably be Iron Gold. I'm about halfway through it. I have started. You'll notice that Mort is missing from my Discworld shelf right here. I have started taking notes, and hopefully I will get a Mort book review out within a couple weeks. I want to eventually have book reviews for the entire Discworld series, and so Mort will be the next one on that list. I will be getting to House of Chains once I find it. I lost it somewhere at school, and now I need to go hunt it down. So once I finish that, once I finished finding it, I will go and finish House of Chains as well. I don't know when my next review will be out because I still have a significant bit of Iron Gold to get through, but I am excited to see you then. Thank you all so much. Bye.